Hello and welcome to another quick save video. I'm Mitch and joining me is Calum.
Greetings.
And we're here to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie, which is not its official name.
Just Sonic the Hedgehog?
Just Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, just Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's not 2000, whereas like the Pokemon movie. Pokemon, the first movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
So there's been a lot of... This movie has been... It's had an interesting development, so to speak.
It has, yeah, I guess you could say a very troubled kind of development cycle, and it's been kind of ups and downs, but I think it's kind of definitely turned things around in terms of kind of public support, for sure.
Yeah, so obviously everyone knows and is aware. The initial trailer that showed off that creature.
Yeah, that creature that should not have been ever a thing and was just disturbing and just, yeah.
Yeah, we
was a disaster.
We rewatched that not that long ago, and man, if that was the Sonic for the movie...
Yeah, there would have been a lot of very annoyed people.
Yeah, I could not have, I don't think I could have tolerated it. That's not to say it's a bad movie, it's actually quite alright. But before we jump into all that, we should talk about who's in it. It's a movie directed by Jeff Fowler.
Who we'd never heard of, right? Like, it's...
No.
Yeah, so his first feature film,
Yeah,
so his
debut
first
film.
proper major picture. He directed, I believe it was like a short film, which was actually nominated for an Oscar, I think.
Or some kind of award, yeah.
Yeah, and it worked, I think, on various films as an animator and that sort of thing. But basically, relatively unknown, I think, in terms of like sort of major Hollywood pictures.
And Sonic is voiced by Ben Schwartz, who you might know from Parks and Rec.
John Ralphio.
John Ralphio.
Which surprised me. I said to you after the film, I knew I recognised that voice, but I couldn't place who it was, and I thought that was quite funny, because he's kind of mainly known for being in comedic roles. But I think, as we'll probably say later, he did a pretty good job. Yeah, he did quite well.
Did a good job. And there's also James Marsden, who you'll know as Cyclops from X-Men or Teddy from Westworld, and he is Tom/Donut Lord. Makes sense in the context of the movie.
It does. Yeah.
We're not just crazy. And yeah, like, human characters is probably the least interesting part. Jim Carrey as Doctor Robotnik, which in my opinion is probably the best casting they could have done for him. I
agree, and probably also, I mean, just looking at this kind of less even the directors and the cast, so probably the biggest kind of pull, I would say.
Yeah, the biggest star.
Yeah, the biggest star for sure, and probably the one that is likely to draw people that don't know about the character probably into the film.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say,
because if you like Jim Carrey, you're bound to enjoy.
This role, and this character for sure.
There's also Tika Sumpter as Maddie.
Yep, who we hadn't heard of, but who is good
She's
enough.
been in movies. And also Neal McDonough. Yeah,
McDonough. Yeah, Neal McDonough, I want to say.
He's the generic soldier guy in literally every movie.
Yes, who has been literally looked up before, like in over 100 films, but usually in supporting roles.
Yeah, like Minority Report, supporting role.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's generally a supporting role, but you will recognise him if you've seen like any war movie.
Yeah, for sure. He'll probably crop up somewhere.
So yeah, so jumping into the backlash and all that, when that trailer was first revealed, everyone was like, you can't make this into a movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as soon as that trailer came out, I think a lot of people did kind of write it off, and they just thought, this film's probably going to be a disaster. It's got just people that are really inexperienced with animation that don't kind of get the franchise or the story. I think a lot of people were just very kind of just put offside like straight away after that first trailer.
And to our complete and utter surprise, not only did they listen to feedback, they implemented it by changing Sonic entirely, which is not an easy thing to do after you've... They look like they were well into post-production.
Yeah.
So the trailers, the original one you saw and the latest one are actually, there's not too much different with them.
Yeah.
So, and they also delayed it to make room to fix it, and I think it definitely paid off. In fans' eyes, people were very happy they did this. The new Sonic model is 100% improvement. Looks like Sonic, which is the main thing for a Sonic movie.
And I think, honestly, it shows quite a bit of... It's kind of a rare thing that actually the studios or people involved with that will take on feedback to that point. I think often there's these big kind of backlashes against like films or TV and stuff, but there's... In the eyes of the studio, they think they can't really do much about it. But the fact that they actually completely reinvented that animation and changed the character, I think actually showed quite a bit of kind of like foresight. I think it was a good thing. And it definitely resulted in people kind of getting on board with it again, which I think was a good thing.
There are a lot of theories about that was intentional to kind of create buzz, but I think that's just a conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
I think what actually happened was exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Because like when a studio takes this IP with not much input from the creators, it's bound to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And then to listen to fans is actually a good thing. So they definitely resolved that. General impressions though. Did you enjoy the Sonic movie?
So yeah, my general impressions was that it was better than I expected. So I think I went into it as someone who wasn't a huge fan, or not necessarily not a huge fan, but just didn't have a huge amount of experience with the Sonic games. Probably my last experience was just growing up and playing maybe some of the games on GameCube and that sort of thing. So I wasn't super invested in the film from the start. In the same way that I might be with like another video game.
Yeah.
But general impressions for me personally is that it was quite good. I would say it was an above average film. And we'll kind of get into more detail in terms of like what was good and what wasn't. But I think it was solid. It was quite good. Yeah. What about yourself?
I've a lot more experience with Sonic. I didn't exactly grow up playing. I had the Game Boy Advance version, which is notoriously a bad port.
Right.
And yeah, I always enjoyed the Sonic characters and the Sonic kind of look. I never really played them. A couple of years ago, I decided to jump back and play Sonic 1 with save states because that's a hard game.
Yeah.
Sonic 2, and then played Sonic Generations, which gave me like a good feel of the Sonic Adventure games, and then Sonic Mania, which is, in my opinion, the best Sonic game, which also has one song is in this movie, but overall for the movie, I thought, yeah, it was better than I expected.
Yeah.
I expected to, at the very least, like it. But I think Jim Carrey pushed it a bit further. I like Sonic as a character. The overall, like, how they go through the movie is very cliched, predictable. But at the same time, it's just like, it was a nice little adventure. I didn't expect, like, award-winning movie.
Yeah.
I expected was what I got.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we'll kind of go into more, but I think what it achieves, just at its most fundamental level, is it was like entertaining for the most part. You know what I mean? And I think that's, in a sense, that's kind of all it had to be. It was just like an entertaining film that I think for the most part did what it set out to do. Yeah,
like the whole point was entertain, which definitely did. It is more aimed at kids, I would say, but there's nothing that makes it like not enjoyable for an adult because there's nothing. It's not too childish. The ads we saw in the movie before it were like, they're real kids movies, like Trolls
very much
2.
So. Yeah.
We won't talk about Trolls 2 here, and hopefully never again. So I think it's time to dive in deep.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, don't expect spoilers or anything spoiler heavy at this point. We will tell you exactly when we're going to talk about that.
So I guess in terms of just kind of the main setup for the film in terms of kind of the overall story. So it goes into his origin story kind of fairly briefly at the beginning. Like, and I think they honestly did quite a good job in terms of not kind of going too far with that. Like they gave you enough information to know who he is as a character and what kind of the setup of the film
like
was.
What's motivating this character, what's getting him going. And it gave you, it's sort of like it talks about like his power, his mentor, and why he has to leave the Sonic world and come to our world.
Yeah, and sets up kind of that whole thing of the fact that he can kind of travel through like different dimensions.
Using rings, which is very fitting to Sonic.
Yeah.
So that's a setup.
And then essentially it's that he basically arrives in Earth because he's meant to be there to kind of be anonymous and to kind of, be somewhere that he can be safe and they can hide. And basically kind of the key thing that happens is that he releases this kind of energy wave or like something like that. Supersonic power. Which basically gets the attention of the
US government.
The US,
because it creates an EMP.
Yeah, which essentially just like, wipes out the power in like a massive surrounding area. So that's kind of the basic setup, and that's kind of what brings in, Jim Carrey's character and all these other various characters. And so I don't know about you, but I think when we talk about kind of the biggest, like not necessarily negative, but just the thing that held it back is that it is a very kind of predictable kind of setup, and it's kind of, something that we've seen in so many other films.
If you laid out a film and like in front of you, you go like the conflict, solving that conflict, then it happens in the way you think. I wish these movies would stop toying with the main character's dead.
Yeah.
Because all of them do it. you're not going to kill the title character. If you think this is a spoiler, the main character might die. Of course he won't.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's kind of it's a bit of a tied kind of like trope now that kind of you know when you see it, especially with something like this where it's the first film. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of different if it's maybe near the end of a film and it's kind of higher stakes, but you just know that it's not going to happen. So that kind of does trivialize.
Yeah, and I think another negative is James Marsden's character and the other human characters is that they feel like they're there just to kind of push Sonic along.
Yeah.
Like, they're not actually that well developed. They go into a little bit of their motivation and stuff, but of course, Sonic is the star, and I guess Jim Carrey is the other one. Whereas
for sure.
The two others, like, all they are is a narrative, like, just to get Sonic to where he needs to be.
Yeah.
I don't feel as characters they're that interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I think they definitely have, you know, there's kind of moments where they kind of have character development and there's some good kind of bounce off between him and Sonic and stuff. But as you said, for the most part, they're fairly forgettable characters, you know, in the sense of, you know, they act perfectly well and stuff and they do what they can with the script, but it's kind of, not overly memorable characters for the most part. Yeah,
whereas Sonic's character is definitely... It had to be a major part. It's a Sonic movie.
Yeah.
And I think Ben Schwartz does a really good job at bringing Sonic to life.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think the voice really captured it well. And I think even just, you know, it's always with humour and stuff like that's, you know, fairly subjective and stuff, whether, you know, humour and stuff hits. I think some of it was quite funny and other bits kind of didn't hit quite as well. But I think for the most part he captured that kind of brash... you know, nature of Sonic and his kind of... I think the voice really captured it quite well. I think he did a good job.
Yeah, I think so too. And Jim Carrey's Doctor Robotnik, as we already said, is definitely the highlight.
Yeah, for sure.
He's definitely back in his element of just doing what Jim Carrey does, which a lot of the time is complete nonsense.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why we like him. And,
yeah.
And I guess if you don't like Jim Carrey... you're going to find this movie very difficult to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Because they really dial up his performance in terms of being, like, very over the top and, like, zany and stuff. Like, it's very, you know, classic kind of Jim Carrey.
But it's subjective. Like,
yeah.
I personally like it. I know people who don't.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I liked it too, I think, because I'm a pretty big Jim Carrey fan. And I think it's for anyone who's familiar with his other films, especially the more comedic films, like, this is very much will be up your alley, I'm sure. And I think he does really well with the character. Captures the essence.
He definitely does, which is good, because it's been a while since Jim Carrey's had a really good role.
Yeah, it feels that way, yeah.
Yeah, he's sort of... I don't know, I'm just thinking, like, what did he do after Liar Liar, or something like that?
Yeah, I honestly, I can't remember. Like, weirdly, probably my favourite film with Jim Carrey is a non-comedic film, which is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I haven't seen that.
Which is a, really fantastic film, older film with Kate Winslet. But yeah, his I think it does feel as if it's the first time in a while that he's had a kind of a role of like this kind of like bigger nature as well, and the fact that it's doing so well at the box office as well, like it's actually has turned out to be like quite a big hit as well.
Yeah, and oddly bigger than Detective Pikachu, which actually surprised me.
It did
completely.
Surprise me, yeah.
Pokemon brand, you would have thought, but that just proves the marketing of how switching it from the potential nightmare to this pretty good movie is...
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, all they did was change his look.
Yeah.
But for Sonic, it's quite important, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. As for that, there's not really too much in-depth stuff to really get into.
Yeah, so there's, in terms, like we said as well, after watching the film, we were surprised, like there's not a huge amount to talk about in terms of spoilers, like in terms of just the characters that kind of crop up and stuff, and for people who are invested in the story and stuff in terms of those sort of things.
So you've been warned.
Yeah, so we'll now go into like a couple of spoilers and stuff, so spoiler warning.
Which there isn't many. There is,
not kind of
There are two things that I feel are worth talking about, and the first one is what happens to Doctor Robotnik at the end, which is through the movie, obviously, he's a villain. Sonic defeats him by sending him through his teleporting rings.
Yeah. And
he sends him to the Mushroom World, which I thought was quite funny, and a reference to maybe subtly to Mario.
I thought that was quite cool, and just on that, one thing I did actually think was quite cool, and actually a highlight of the film was that quote-unquote kind of boss fight, like with, Eggman, or like before he becomes him Robotnik. I actually thought, the thing of Sonic using that to like go through like portals to like different worlds and like really highlighting his speed, I thought was actually really cool.
Yeah, that's actually something we can talk about, because like I like that sequence a lot.
I did.
Just like using the
really
rings,
cool.
going through like to the pyramids and the Great Wall of China. Really.
Yeah.
I kind of wish in that moment he went through back into other worlds.
Yeah.
So like just a quick thing in the Sonic world, because you see it at the start, which looks like Sonic.
Yeah.
And then it would have been cool to see that, but it doesn't totally like ruin that thing by not including that. But yeah, so in the conclusion to that, as we said, he gets defeated, gets taken through a portal by himself into this mushroom world where there's no resources or anything. But it cuts to him when he actually takes on that iconic Eggman look. Like he's got the mustache, he's got his bald, like it looks like what he should look like.
Yeah.
And they've done a really good job with that, and obviously that's hinting at what's next, because this movie has made enough to make a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I thought it was interesting as well. I mean, it seems to be kind of so common nowadays with trailers anyway, but that, because I believe it's the very last scene of the film, isn't it, with that, before like the end credits and stuff. But I thought it was interesting that was actually shown off in the first trailer. I think it was the very last shot of the first trailer, but they actually show that whole kind of get up, because that's only really for the last few minutes of the film.
Yeah, and it's to kind of go, wow, he actually does look like Eggman.
Yeah.
Just like, which I think it's weird to talk about in the spoiler section, but it is the conclusion to the movie.
Yeah.
So, but the real spoiler is who shows up right at the end.
Yeah, so there is a post-credit scene.
There's there's post-credits, and there's one right at the end, which is a little flying fox character
by the name of Tails.
By the name of Tails, my favourite Sonic character, actually. Rocks up at the end searching for Sonic. So Tails' model was good.
Yeah.
I hate to know what his original one was.
Yeah. I like just kind of thinking about like you saying that. I do wonder as well if there was a redesign there as well. Like I know it's only for one like post-credit scene. It's kind of like a setup for the next film.
He definitely looks more like Sonic. So I'm thinking they had to redo that too.
It probably was, because it did look much more in line with Sonic's new character designs. Didn't
so
it?
That leads me to the question: on the final release, the Blu-ray release, would you want a version of the old Sonic? Just to kind of see what that would have been like. Yeah,
that's an interesting... I think for people who are like really invested in it, it probably would be just an interesting like piece, like just to see, even maybe side by side as well, and just to see what it actually would have been, their original kind of vision for the character. I think obviously most people are thankful that it was changed, but just as like out of curiosity, I think it would be cool to see, for sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting thing, and like even because I want to see what Tails look like, despite it being horrific. And because they could put that in like concept art or something, but to have the whole new cut of that original version, which they probably cast in the fires of Mount Doom, but it would be interesting to have.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of we've mostly covered. I mean, we haven't kind of gone into a huge amount of detail in terms of story beats and stuff like that, but I think for, as we said, for the most part, it's a fairly kind of predictable plot that you've probably kind of seen in other films. I think what it did really well was, for the most part, it was an entertaining film that introduced the character and did that well. I think that the whole like speed thing, I think, was kind of a little bit gimmicky in the early parts of the film, because it's kind of more played for like laughs or comedy than it is functional like things in terms of the character. But I think they've really made up for that with that final kind of scene, with that fight scene. I thought it was cool how they incorporated the speed as a way to actually outwit his opponent. I thought that was quite
fast.
Cool. Yeah, exactly.
Which is an important part of Sonic, because his speed is what makes him what he is.
Yeah.
So they really demonstrated that really well at the end. Like I said, the characters were predictable and stuff, but overall, I think if you're looking for an entertaining movie and you're a Sonic fan who likes Jim Carrey, then you're going to definitely enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
Which is more than probably what you thought when they first released it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think a lot of people, after seeing that first one, had just kind of like lost hope that it was even going to be like a decent film, you know what I mean? But it definitely achieves that. I think it does well visually. It's kind of, for the most part, quite impressive. The redesign looks good, and I think they kind of distill the essence of the character into a first film, which is now going to turn into a series, it looks like.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, what out of 5 stars would you give this movie?
So yeah, out of 5. So you know that for me personally, I'm not a huge fan usually of giving out scores, but I think it can be useful. Yeah, I'm being forced into it. But I think it can be useful, as you said, in terms of giving people like a kind of takeaway in terms of like.
Yeah. So if you watch this and you're like, well, what do they say? Well, you have to explain everything. No, these guys gave it whatever they're giving it.
Yeah.
They're giving it right now. I think personally, I'm giving it 3 out of 5, which is what I think you will also be giving it.
Yeah, so I couldn't agree more. I think 3 is pretty much bang on. 3 out of 5.
I do recommend you watch it if you're both a fan of Sonic or Jim Carrey, or just looking for an entertaining movie to see with kids or something, because there is definitely a lot to like for all ages, I think.
Yeah, and I think like that kind of, I think it's slightly above average, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of, it has like its draws with the, especially with Jim Carrey's performance. And I think it kind of captures the essence of the franchise quite well.
That it does.
Yeah, and also I think like for some people it's kind of just better than what people expected, so it's almost like a nice pleasant surprise. After that whole kind of controversy at the start and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, 3 out of 5 for both of us.
I'm definitely glad we saw it. Like, yeah. So if you like this video, you can do all the YouTubey stuff that everyone tells you to do by now. I've been Mitch, joining me has been Calum.
Thank you.
This has been QuickSave. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
The Fidget Mount also Sonic.
Ugh, I can't with that guy.